Okay, and we're back with another Suzerain, okay, Kingdom of Rizia. So, last Friday when we started streaming, okay, we basically like set up our background information on on our character, okay. So if I'm not mistaken, you know, I'm a kind of guy that doesn't like to use like power for the sake of power alone. Okay, so I'm more of the kind of person who's more of the man with the people, which is kind of weird since right now we are practically royalty. Not only royalty, we're also the king. Okay, so if you ask me, I do not agree with like with like a monarchy because even if you get a good and wise king, right? Sooner or later, like when the monarchy is being passed around, you're definitely gonna get like somebody who abuse the power. Okay, it might be good now, but it might be good now, but in the future, who knows what's gonna happen? Okay, so but then, since we are playing as the playing as the the king this time in a monarchy with a low hint of like constitutional monarchy, okay, I still think that we need to have like a little bit of power. In other words, like we're gonna be like the people. Oh, give me a second. We're gonna be the people who usher the change. Okay, we're gonna be the people who basically like um set the country towards a trajectory. Okay, we will have the power, and then like we are gonna be like the last few. We're gonna be like the last, royalty to actually wield like a decent amount of power, something like that. Okay, because if we don't like have control of the power, then what we will be doing is like we're kind of like being the bystander. Although we still have influence, we're not gonna be able to improve a lot. Okay, so that's how I'm planning to govern. Okay, so we already set up. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, we went to college as Ramas. Okay, and basically like right now there are a few things. So like for example, the country to the southern side, right, which is Palace. Um, Palace used to belong to our country, and also one of the royalty houses. And it seems that they have their own, they forge their own identity, and they're kind of flourishing. Okay, like although I do want to integrate them back to our country, okay, but I still think that it'd be better to leave them as independent. Now, we're from seeing how the story goes, I can see I can see this I can see this house, okay, who control this region, and of course, in the past, Palace was, belong to them. If we don't manage this properly, they are probably gonna be the one that lead the coup against us. Okay? So we need to play carefully. We'll try to like um nudge Palace into reunification, but physically, maybe not physically, but maybe economically, something like that. Okay, that's something I want to strive for. Okay, and with that said, let's just head on. So let's just read some of the reports first. Read the report. Coal deposits suspected in Havas. Geologists in Havas have notified us about a potential presence of significant coal deposits, sparking interest for further exploration. To ascertain the extent and economic viability of these resources, comprehensive seismic and subsurface surveys must be commissioned. Hmm. About resources, right? About managing how much resources that we're gonna have. I'm planning to make ourselves something similar to like we're gonna have we're not gonna like go on full on resource based economy. Okay, it's not saying that we're against it. We're gonna keep it at a between and minimal and medium. We do not want to over rely on it. Okay, Nervous oil field on the verge of depletion. Yeah, because this will happen. Because if we overmine it, then later, like when it's depleted, the area, the country is gonna lose like a huge amount. So that's why like we should move on to like a like the most basic form of like economy is like resource-based economy. We should think about what should we do with the resource. If not, we're gonna be in a big trouble. This is something like what the Middle East are doing. The Middle East, they, without a doubt, they're flourishing, right? They have a lot of oil, but oil is basically a finite resource. When the Middle East ran out of oil, which is kind of hard to imagine, but within this century, within the next 50 years, it's not that hard to imagine if you think about it from that perspective. If they don't do anything, the Middle East is going to be like a big problem. And even like Saudi Arabia understands that. So they try to like diversify their one, which is a smart idea because think about it. They are not only like relying a lot on oil, at the same time, global warming. So that place is literally gonna be like a frying pan if they don't do anything about it. So we have to keep that in mind. Industry reports reveal that Nelvasa oil field, once among Rizia's most prolific sites, is nearing the end of productive life, with experts predicting significant output will decline within next year. The imminent depletion has prompted calls for increased investment in alternative energy sources and a re-evaluation of Rizia's long-term energy strategy. Good thing that when we first you know when we first um coronated, one of our first choice is basically like to diversify our economy. Okay, so I think we're still gonna feel the shock from this, but not as much. Unveiling the legacy of Resonant Empire. In a groundbreaking development that has captured Kingdom of Rizia's imagination, archaeologists in the esteemed city of Topaz have unearthed remnants of what appear to be a major city from the long-lost Resonant Empire. South Merkopa, but millennium, the Resna family managed to consolidate small territories under the Resna. Okay, so archaeological site. The extensive layout marked by grandiose architecture and elaborate frescoes suggests a significant center of commerce, governance, and culture, reflective of bygone golden era of prosperity. Can we bring back the golden era under our reign? Coal deposit and suspected in Havas. Oh. Okay, there's nothing much. Is there anything else? Royal decrees. Okay. Ooh. I think we'll listen to what they say first. Then only we will make the royal decrees. Okay. Introductory briefing from the Royal Council. It was late afternoon when Vinna and I headed back to the chambers for the first council meeting. The day was hot, and my head still felt slightly fuzzy from the wine we shared before lunch. I knew we shouldn't drink wine, but it's, even though I don't drink alcohol, you're kind of like in this situation. I wouldn't say forced to, but it's basically like a social, it's basically a social kind of thing, you know. Okay, now that I think about it, right? Just now we learned about, you know, energy resource, right? I think we need to have like a lot of like energy to basically keep our economy moving. We cannot let energy go to neutral, okay? And if we should always have a surplus, okay? And of course we need to have like extra surplus, because I can guarantee, seeing like how Suzerain played, there's gonna be like a time where, let's say for example, our power plants, they're gonna be hit with something and we're gonna like suffer like maybe -2, -3 energy for some time. So remember, we cannot let it go to neutral. We must always have like an additional 1 or 2 just to be safe. I know I was about to receive a lot of new information from my counselors. I hope I could keep it all straight. As we crossed the palace gardens, I had the feeling I was being watched. Suddenly, I noticed a young man standing next to the path. His face matched the photograph Hugo had shown me this morning. Duke Saison, I presume? He smiled nervously. This guy. So he's basically one of the... He's, when we were young, like, his father basically kidnapped us, and basically that kind of like put the House of Saison on the decline. And now, because they're in exile, more or less, this guy, he can pretend that he's no longer royalty, but at the same time, like, he's still like trying to reclaim his his title as a duke, okay, like the authority as a duke. So, boy, I don't trust him. Okay, even though like you can think that, okay, Manus Saison is like a rising star in the political world, and he's basically siding with the people. I don't trust him fully though. I hold no land, Your Majesty. You may use the title if you wish. You are the traitor's son. You are the man who would topple the monarchy. It is brave of you to approach me. I don't think I should say this. Even though I don't trust him, I should not be outwardly hostile. You are the man who would topple the monarchy. Like, this song kind of like show us that we're kind of arrogant. It's brave of you to approach me. More or less the same. So, the most logical answer would be this. It's good to see you here in Port Raison. He tugged at his suit lapel. I wanted to introduce myself before our first official meeting. I may be the leader of the opposition, but I'm not your enemy. In fact, you differ though. If you and I establish a dialogue, I believe we can work wonders for this country. Yeah, I don't want you though. I want somebody else. Vina gave him an encouraging smile. How lovely of you to say that. I'm Vina Toras, by the way. I know. A pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm not uninterested in your proposition, but you have to make a formal audience with me like everyone else. That's logical. I wish you could stay and talk, but the Princess Anne must be going. Too arrogant. Don't speak to him, Vina. More arrogant. You have to stay away from Mrs. Saison, and even further away from my daughter. Overly cautious. Please, Vina, don't fall for him. Okay? This one is the most logical. I understand. Looking forward to it, Your Majesty. Your Highness. Wait, Vina waved as we walked away. He seems nice. Vina! Okay. We don't know who he really is, but my senses are tingling. He's friendlier than I expected. I couldn't imagine working together. Don't get too smitten. He's the opposition after all. Yep. Nice by foot. That man has all kind of ulterior motive. We don't really know that though. So I think like I say, most logical. Don't get too smitten. We continued towards his council chambers. Oddly enough, I still felt like someone had their eyes on us. I looked back for just long enough to see a flash of gold. Titus, of course. We entered the chambers where Hugo was already waiting for us. No sooner had we sat down than a brief rap came at the door. Without waiting for an answer, Lucida Azaro rushed in. Yeah, this is like the other house of royalty. Like, basically, Azaro House is like Azaro House is more of a war hawk kind of thing. The new War and Security Counselor was younger than I imagined. She carried herself with a mix of regal elegance and soldierly authority. Gentlemen, pardon my interruption. She bowed towards me. Please accept House Azaro formal congratulations on your coronation, Your Majesty. I mentioned for her to stand. Her eyes was fixated on my uncle's shirt as she raised herself. Here you go, Your Grace. Your shirt's button wrong. My uncle looked chastised. Oh, hello, Princess Vina. Your Majesty, may I ask what your daughter is doing here? She's here to receive tutelage from the best mind of the kingdom has to offer. Yours included. Ask her yourself, Duchess Cesaro. The princess is part of this court now. I advise you to be more respectful. This is a bit hostile. This is a bit too, like, not respecting Vina. But I think this is, like, being the most amicable among all. I'm flattered. She gave Vina a broad smile. We made a good impression from this. Hopefully that this counts as well. Please don't mind me, Duchess Cesaro. I'm only here as an observer. Lucida's eyes darted to the door. Lucida. Oh, it's her. Cesaro. The king and his direct successor spending so much time in the same room. I hope the Golden Guard knows what's at stake in keeping these chambers secure. General Thaddeus sends his regards, or he would if he were capable of speaking in full sentences. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he had stroke. So people who had stroke basically like, if I'm not mistaken, stroke, it basically impair your brain functions, okay? So people who suffer stroke never become the same as before. So you need to be careful about that. Okay? Like, after having a stroke, you can see people getting more senile. So that's something that that we have to keep in mind, okay? Okay, so give me a second. No time for pleasantry? Where are the others? I hope he heals swiftly. I was counting on his expertise as a counselor. I think this is the best. This must be a difficult time for you. Let me know if there's anything I can do. Ooh. This one, of course, is very humble. This one is like acknowledging her. Even though that she's a woman, we want to like help her. The corners of her mouth twitched downward. I'm not a porcelain doll, Your Majesty. My ability to perform my duties is no way compromised. The others should be right behind me. I'm trying to be polite. As if on cue, I heard the voice of Elena Werner and Lorenzo Escabel, my treasurer and counselor of foreign affairs. For Dad's sake, Lorenzo, you don't need to hold the door open for me every single time. I'm not as fragile as I look. I keep telling you, how could I allow a door to close on such a gorgeous face? As the two senior counselors stepped in, they should get married. They immediately dropped their flirtatious routine and assumed a look of deference. Lorenzo smoothly removed his fedora, revealing a well-oiled mane of free hair. Your Majesty, it is pleasure and an honor to serve on your council. Elena nodded briskly. Despite her grandmotherly appearance, her demeanor was all business. Your reputation precedes you, Your Majesty. I heard marvelous things about the work you did in Valankris. I don't need your approval, Miss Warner. This sounds a bit too aggressive. Thank you, Miss Warner and Miss Warner and Mr. Escabel. I look forward to working with you. No need for flattery. With your years of experience, I know who should be bowing down to both of you. 2 is very neutral, but 3? I don't want to. 2 is like we're a bit like kowtowing a bit though, but since they are senior citizens, right? I think they would like to be acknowledged. I think like we'll go for number 2. And work we will. We have so much ahead of us. Elena looked fondly at Vina. I'm pleased to see the young heiress here as well. A new Liza the Great in the making. Vina blushed. I wouldn't go that far. I do hope you tell me about your time in Queen Liza's court one day. I'd love to. There are just a few updates I've got to share with your father first. Once all the councils were seated, Hugo began. Thank you for joining us. I'm pleased to have the entire council here for the first meeting. Well, not the entire council. The Grand Wiseman is in Plavo, preparing for the upcoming religious ceremony with His Majesty. Plavo. Oh, Grand Wiseman is basically the religious leader. But he didn't really involve himself in earthly concerns like our royal treasury. He smiled to himself, then gestured to Elena. No, indeed, that's for me to worry about. She put on a pair of half-moon glasses, then reached down into her purse, pulled out a thick leather-bound ledger and flipped it open. Surely His Majesty already has some awareness regarding the state of Rizia's economy and resources. We've got gold, we got energy, what else do I need to know? No. I do, but I'd like to have an update. I think we should say this. I'd like to have an update. Certainly, Your Majesty. She smoothly adjusted her reading glasses before continuing. Rizia has historically been one of the most wealthiest countries in South Merkopa, but His Majesty the late King Valero bequeathed us a number of challenges in that department. Where should I start? Tell me about the budget. It's healthy, Your Majesty. Since we began trading with Rumberg, we've been running a surplus. It's not as high as it used to be, but I think we should put it to work. Yep. Even though, okay, of course, we need to have surplus, but that doesn't mean that we should hold it forever. Okay? Because money spent now would bring further dividends in the future. If you just let it sit, it's not gonna do much for us. So it's the idea of you have to spend money to make money. But do not spend everything do not spend everything and have nothing and have nothing in savings. Do not slander the King of Rizia, meh. No need to sugarcoat it. He was a miser, maybe. Nonetheless, it's great to know that we're not going broke. Agree. He had the right idea. If Rumberg and the other countries in Grace stop importing from us, that surplus could disappear. If Rumberg and the other countries in Grace stop importing from us, that surplus could disappear. Ooh, this one it is true though. Like, if I'm not mistaken, King Valero tried to have a strong domestic economy, which is something that we should strive for, okay? Because if you remember back in the pandemic, okay, most countries kind of grind to a halt in terms of their economy. Of course, it's a pandemic is one thing. The second thing is that the pandemic is not really helping us. The countries are focusing on their internally, right? So I think we're not gonna say it out loud, but we're gonna follow his steps. But at the same time, we also want to import. Okay? Give me a second. My phone kind of rang. I think I put some. Just a moment. There's something here I need to play around with. Oh well, I think it'll be fine. With that said, our budget will need more padding if we want to complete the slate of military modernization I have in mind. Elena pursed her lips. Like I say, with the military, we're not gonna focus. Military is always one of my lowest focus in governing. But I do think that if we do need to have a decent amount of military this time, because we are kind of surrounded with easy to say, we're kind of surrounded with a little bit of an enemy, and Romberg is also kind of a aggressive, an aggressive country, okay, and it's a superpower country, so we need to be careful. They might throw their weight around, even though that we kind of married into one of the princesses, but she passed away. So we do have Vina, which is kind of connected to the lineage, to the Romberg royal family, but we still need to have I wouldn't say a great, at the very least a decent military. With all due respect, Duchess Azaro, I'm not sure the military is the king's #1 focus. Yes. Why wouldn't it be? Nah. It most certainly is not. The money should be spent on the Rizian people, not weapons. This one's a bit too aggressive on her. The last time Rizia had a strong military, its member mutinied against us. No, it isn't. If we invest surplus in Rizian industries, we'll get back what we spent triple-fold. This one is kind of like too condescending to Lucida. I think we should say no. No, it isn't. If we invest in surplus in Rizian industry, we get back what we spend triple-fold. Very good thinking, Your Majesty. Ultimately, shouldn't that money be spent on Rizian people? Think of the advances we were able to make during the Liza era due to Queen's investment in citizen welfare. Yes, but we kind of should balance it out. You recall her famous quote, "True prosperity is not defined by the amount of gold in our coffers, but the health and happiness of each soul within our borders." Shh, you're supposed to be silent observer. Truer words have now been spoken. More pragmatically, a happy and well-fed populace is one that does not rise up against its leaders. On the other hand, there can be no welfare without security. What good is self and happiness if we're unable to defend ourselves? I think number 3, more pragmatically. Hugo nodded. I will point out Rizia's wealth and my mother's judicious handling of it. It was one of the factors that allowed us to survive the Century of Revolution. Century of Revolution, what's that? Period between the earliest, which is number significant revolution, military, Merkopa and Cortana. Okay, the period is noted of change for absolute monarchy and representative government with a written constitution, creation of nation states, socialist states. So basically, it's like the rebel against the monarchy. Okay, it's the rebel against monarchy. And also Millennialism. It's basically Millennialism. You can just substitute with socialism / communism. Okay, which is understandable. However, those were different times. As modern nation in an era of increasing superpower influence, we are expected to have a certain standard of military. Yep. Other countries might compete to have the biggest guns, not Rizia. I do not want to antagonize her. And there's the fact that we're sandwiched between the highly contentious regions of Zil and Pallas. If we cultivate our alliance well, we won't need that. I think we'll go for number 4. Allies can turn on us, Your Majesty. A loyal, well-funded military is worth in weight in gold. Your enthusiasm is heartening, Duchess Azaro. I'm sure you have more advice to share during your own briefing. Any further question, Your Majesty? What's been going on with gold industry? Well, Your Majesty, gold is still the backbone of Rizian economy, though production has declined as our reserve begin to exhaust themselves. See, this is why we need to diversify. We have a number of active mines within the country operated by Rizian Royal Gold Corporation. She and Hugo exchanged glances, and unfortunately we cannot talk about Rizian Royal Gold without talking about its CEO. Why do we have to talk about him? It's Rizian Royal Gold after all. Why unfortunately, Your Grace? You had better get the discussion over with. Okay, why unfortunately? Your uncle never could countenance the presence of Russello Montoro, but we can't mine in this country without him. Who's Russello? Don't like his portrait though. Few concrete facts I know about his provenance and upbringing. He claims to have been born into an impoverished family in Malcos, an industrial area in southern blah 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 blah. His rapid ascent within the RRG was marked by a combination of sharp business acumen and relentless ambition, as well as gratuitous connection and decision. So, bribing. He's known to have many connections with high-ranking politicians and business people, both within Rizia and beyond. Aside from gold, he has made substantial investment in finance, technology, and energy. He's also the chair of the Heart of Gold Foundation, a philanthropic organization that provides scholarship and mentorship to children from low-income background. Oh, that kind of make him like a gray character. He has had a series of high-profile marriages and divorces, most recently with television star Marcia Marzan. I can see why it's unfortunate. Mr. Montoro, excuse me, Rusty currently owns 70% of Rizian Royal Gold. I still cannot believe he was allowed to gain such a large majority. It's fine by me, we all know private enterprise can achieve what the government cannot. As much as I respect Rusty, I believe the royals should be in charge of our own royal gold. I think number 1's the best. Nor can I, Your Majesty. He looked at Elena. Rusty's first move after taking over the company was to sue your father's government for loss of revenue connected to Zil handover. After a very lengthy back and forth, it was agreed that the kingdom's share in RRG be decreased from 45 to 30%. Rizia should not own 30% of RRG or even 45%. The entire company should be nationalized. Like if it's nationalized, then they're not gonna make like a sound. They're not gonna make a sound judgment, okay? I don't see any problem with that. We shouldn't have so much money tied up in our outdated resource. Neither one. I think maybe the best one would probably be the first one. I want Rizia's original stake back. Curry enough favor with Rusty, and it should be possible, but any more than 55% will be difficult. The patent for RRG proprietary mining technology was filed in Inventory City, Arcasia. Arcasia is basically, if I'm not wrong, it's like the United States, where it's very open and very, it's very like open market, and most of its financial assets are kept in Kairut. Where's Kairut? The Republic of Kairut. Yeah, we shouldn't be aggressive with this. If not, we're gonna lose RRG, okay? Because I feel like there's a lot of investors, okay, in it. So the power investors have the say in it, and if we take out investors fully, then we're the ones gonna be suffering. In other words, attempting to nationalize the company without Mr. Montro's express approval would strip of its value. Yep. She adjusted her glasses before continuing. RRG may control mining within Rizia, but the royal government is a direct stakeholder in Meftium International Trade Zone. Meftium. I think maybe this one, Meftium International Trade Zone, is something similar to the EU, maybe? She unrolled a map on the table and pointed at the region of east of Morella. Give me a second. The double blow of losing our mines in Zil and 15% of our RRG stake has made quite reliant on the gold from MITs. Lorenzo stroked his mustache. It was established shortly before you joined the Royal Council, was it not, Elena? I heard the negotiation between Rizia, Valdsland, Lesbia, and Mora took over a year. Can we increase our mining efforts within Rizia to make up for the loss? When we get the Zil back, will we get the gold back as well? How much say does the government have over Operation Emit? When we get Zil back. I certainly hope so. Wale has been mining extensively. This is why, like, it's pretty dumb that King Valero actually gave this to, give Zil. But I think, like, one of the reasons that King Valero did that, like, handed over Zil to Wachlin, is probably because of us. We were kidnapped during that time. But as per terms of our agreement, Zil and all the resources therein were returned to Rizian ownership in 1952. And at the time of our last survey, there was much more than 30 years worth of gold in the ground there. How much does the government have over Operation MITS? A fair amount. Any changes to regulation or profit shares have to be agreed by all 4 nations involved. RRG gets a percentage of MIT profits for the use of its technology, but we can make decisions without Mr. Montero's input. Can we increase the mining effort within Rizia to make up for the loss? We can try. There are a number of promising sites that have yet to be explored. We would just need to give the RRG permission to begin excavation, which might involve the expropriation or destruction of noble property depending on where the mines are located. Dang! Okay, here's this problem. Okay? And okay. We have Brenna, which is like the Brenna, the House of Saison. Like, the problem with here is that if we mine here, basically like we are targeting like the House Saison, right? I still think like that's the most least worrying, because House of Saison has been House Saison has been on the decline. Okay, so, and they're kind of like being branded as trader. So, but then there's also like the nationalist party in Brenna, so we have to be very careful. If it's our own area, we're just gonna like make people unhappy with it, right? And we're gonna lose support from there. And we could go to like, you know, a Zaro household, but a Zaro household, if we do that, we're just gonna further antagonize them. So if I do have to, I think like the most logical is that I'll go for House Saison area. I saw Hugo wins at that remark. That's it for our discussion on gold. Shall we move on? Energy holdings. Very gladly, Your Majesty. This is a new area for us compared to gold, but the financial possibility is intriguing indeed. She pointed at the map in front of her, this time directing our attention to the southern coast of Valancaris. Our state energy company is called Rizian Oil and Gas. Production of the former has slowed over the years, and is threatening to come to a complete halt. The latter, however, shows immense potential. Gas? Our most productive gas is Esquiris off the coast of Topaz. Assuming enough money is invested into this expansion, we can expect it to fuel the kingdom for years to come. Or we could spend our budget elsewhere as we wait for access to the new field south of Politicalsim. As a relatively recent addition to Kingdom of Rizia, historically part of Resonant Empire by the Valgish. Yeah, I think like we're gonna have to like argue with the Voglans. I remember Voglan in Suzerain as well, the main story. They're kind of like very bullish. Careful, Miss Werner. One shouldn't count one's pheasants before they've been bagged. Excuse me, what field would that be? Elena looked at Lorento, then at me. Well, we're still in extremely early stages, but we have at least part of a claim to a substantial reserve of natural gas between Port Palace and Rizian Island of Calicabis. We should proceed very carefully on this. We don't want a gas dispute on our hands. Wise word, Your Majesty. Our researchers have been investigating the field size and borders. Once those are known, it will be easy to determine ownership. Of course, we are liaising extremely closely with Palace to avoid misunderstanding. Yeah, that's something that we need to think about. As we should. Nobody wants the repeat of the last conflict. Really, Duchess Zaro? Your family isn't itching for a rematch? This is just too antagonizing. Indeed not. I will not practice the same mindless militarism as my father and Thaddeus Zaro. Lucida's eyes narrowed. The attack on Palace in the 20s was not mindless, Your Majesty. It was driven by demand from the people. But some people don't know what's best for them, especially my family. Vina tentatively raised her hand. I don't know why we are even discussing military response. We'll surely be able to reach a compromise using proper diplomacy. Don't interrupt Vina, you speak. You're right, Dr. Zaro. Save the military talk for your own briefing. No, no, no. Okay, all three, all three are very condescending. I think maybe this number 3 is the best. Oh, but Elena gently cut in. We should save this discussion for it when we know more about the gas fuel in question. So I think we should avoid, improving gas fuel there. For now, are there any other questions? How much of our revenue comes from taxes? Historically, our resource-based economy has allowed us to have some of the lowest tax rate on the continent. It's been a real boon for businesses. The central government does collect a flat income tax of 10%. This is mostly paid by workers since nobles have no income to speak of. Watch your words, Miss Warner. The nobility may not have an income, but we are the foundation in which Rizia society was built. 10%, that's low, isn't it? That doesn't seem fair. Low-earning workers pay taxes while nobles don't. Could we generate extra revenue by introducing estate or inheritance taxes? Yeah, but this is gonna antagonize the nobles though. But let's go for it. We definitely could, Your Majesty. I do happen to think that taxing wealthy nobles makes more sense than taxing workers who generate said wealth. On the other hand, the current tax code was proposed by the House of Delegates and agreed on by your father. It might not be easy to change it. House of Delegates? How does it work? Delegates are selected in the provincial council. Half of the provincial council are directly selected by the province leaders, while the other half are elected by citizenry. Okay. In order for us to actually win the House of Delegates, which is at this current point where it's been given half, I don't think we can win it unless we change like the representation to like maybe 7-3, 7 to people, 3 to nobles. Nor should we. Taxing nobles would be an attack on the very backbone of Rizian society. Yes, our family investment power half the businesses in this country. Why should we be forced to pay double? But nobles only got the money from those investments by siphoning it from hardworking commoners. Isn't it our responsibility to break the cycle somehow? You have a point. You shouldn't dissent by a family like yours, supporting Rizia's economy. I think let's see. They're gonna hate me for saying this, but look, Hugo, look at me strangely. It is our responsibility to make wise choices with the money we have. Dwelling on how we came to have it accomplishes nothing. In terms of our province's individual contributions, the GDP in Valankris is off the charts thanks to the wine, gas, and tourism industries. Yeah, we shouldn't make any like energy resource, like energy mining in our own Valankris. Varenas is still suffering from the effects of the loss of Iza and Zil. However, it's made advances in shipping and agriculture alongside its gold mines. The manufacturing concerns of Cardan's Monteclar are doing very well, to the point that business councils are complaining about an imminent shortage of skilled workers. A shortage of Rizian workers, Elena. Those vacancies could easily be filled with migrants from Wachlan and Doria. That is a slippery slope, Mr. Escobar. Are you familiar with the Rizia's two-tier employment system, Your Majesty? Explain to me. After the Wachlan Civil War, we began granting labor hand visas to Waxite migrants and a smaller number of Dardians. Labor hands may accept employment by Rizian industry, but they don't have the right to social security or other benefits. There is a cap on how much they are allowed to earn. They now make most of our blue-collar workforce, with higher paid jobs held by native Rizians, as well as a smaller number of lesbians, Volkslandians, and Rumburgians. The program did wonders for the economy when King Valero initiated it, but as a result, we now have millions of workers in this country who are being treated like second-class citizens. They should have the same working rights as their Rizian counterparts, especially if they are paying taxes. The system function, I see no need to change it. Those visas were granted to temporary residents. They were supposed to go home at some point. I think this is a sound argument. I see where you're going with this, but granting them full employment rights will lead to a flood of uncontrolled migration. I think like number 3 is the best. That was the initial aim, but Rizia's current day economy now relies on these workers. Understandable. All the more reason they deserve an upgrade in status. Rizia offered Wazak asylum where other countries did not. There must be some limit to our generosity. Perhaps I do worry that having a growing army of disenfranchised laborers will lead to unrest down the line. True. From a purely pragmatic point of view, expanding foreign workers' right does seem like a convenient solution to the shortage of Elena mentioned. Exactly. I'm all for diversity but resilience. Okay, number 1 or number 2? I think number 1. Unrest. Very possible, Your Majesty, and allowing migrants to earn more money will curb the kind of black market activities that. Yeah, this is what I've been saying. Okay, like if you give equal rights to workers, right, between foreign and foreign and local workers, like they it's at the end it's gonna benefit the local workers as well. Okay. Do you fear not the dilution of Rizin cultures and values, Duchess Azaro, or the infiltration of Destronis and Golcondas into our Ruhis society? Shrugged. Societies change, Your Grace, and I don't recall these concerns being raised about Rumburgians who moved here after our alliance. Well put, Duchess. I can already tell you're going to be a brilliant addition to this council. Yeah! They're completely different blood relation, to tell the truth. I'm not sure about any of this group. I think we should say this to gain her favor a bit. Thank you, Your Majesty. I saw a smile play across her lips. Hugo stayed silent. Elena looked uneasy at the three of us. She tapped a pencil on the table. We seem to have veered off track. Can we get back to question about economy? That's all the information I need. Perfect, Your Majesty. Elena glanced down at her notes, her expression contemplative. I'd like to discuss several economics considerations. We should anticipate potential expenses arising from our impending fiscal policies. Elaborate. The first point to consider is industrial growth. I'm all for expanding production and construction, but we should make sure we have energy to keep facilities humming. Yep, this is one of the things I said earlier. Secondly, there's the matter of living standards. Improving the quality of life of citizens naturally leads to a higher administrative expenditures. Turkey. Okay, continue. Surely, if you do decide to listen to Duchess Zaro expand our defensive capabilities, keep in mind that the cost of upkeep will. Ooh, that's true. Lastly, the energy management poses its own challenges. As we approach the limits of our grid capacity, we may incur additional storage costs. This information is valuable, Elena. I appreciate your insights. Okay, this information is invaluable. Frankly, I'm glad to see you taking such an interest in financials. Between myself and the House of Delegates, we were able to keep everything running smoothly in the absence of clear guidance from your father. But with a king of your caliber at the helm, there's no telling how high we can soar. History shall know me as Romus the fiscally responsible. Your hard work during my father's decline is to be commended. My father, I prefer to be judged on my own merits, not compared to him. I think let's commend her. Thank you. It was indeed quite the stressful time for everyone. I think that's enough for today. But we will have to come to a decision regarding the development of our resources. Gold is where most of our profits are coming from today, and it holds a special place in history, but I maintain that natural gas will be more fruitful investment. I'll let you think about it, Your Majesty. Thank you, Miss Warner. This was indeed enlightening. A pleasure to finally share these chambers with you, King Romus. Yes, I'm looking forward to our upcoming security briefing, and congratulating on surviving your first council meeting, Your Highness. I found it fascinating, Your Grace. Smiled each other, not altogether sincerely. My councilors left. I sat on a few minutes, reflecting on what Elena and the others had said. Decree available. What's this? Royal Decree. By this decree, the kingdom solemnly affirms the transition of crown within the Toras lineage from King Valero to King Romus. This decree upholds the revered tradition of the monarchy, ensuring the continuity and stability of the Toras dynasty. Concurrently with this auspicious transition, King Romus, in his inaugural act of clemency, extends the royal pardon to 500 million convicted of minor offences. I think this is not bad though. Launch of anti-narcotics. What's this? Investment in public transport. Ooh, dang. Okay, I think the royal decree, we leave it first. Or should we? Okay, I think maybe we need to choose one. Investment in public transport infrastructure. The kingdom takes the rail travel more accessible by subsidizing its cost. This gesture is to promote more connected Rizia, ensuring people can travel with ease and affordability. As rails stretch further across our lands, they will not only connect the places but also hearts and minds. However, financial and administrative responsibility of such decisions are not to be taken lightly, and every effort will be made to ensure that systems sustainability. Rizia is committed to modernizing its transport backbone by investing heavily in public transport infrastructure. This initiative symbolizes the dedication of facilitation of efficient transit of our citizens and bolstering inter-regional connectivity. With every brick laid, station built, we inch closer to a vision of seamless mobility, all while keeping a keen eye on budgetary implication and energy costs. We aspire to shape a future where distance become a mere numbers for citizens. Let's. Can I compare? 2, 3. Okay, the difference between this one and this one is the energy. And become more affordable. I think we should only focus on one of this. I think the best. Like public transportation is the backbone of the modern economy. I don't even need to see it. I'll have to sign this. Housing the poor RPP proposal. Naturalization process for foreigners. The government hereby institute a comprehensive naturalization program for foreign nationals seeking national citizenship. This process will emphasize on the adherence of our cultural values, proficiency in the national language, and a commitment to contributing to the nation's prosperity. The objective is to welcome new citizens who are prepared to integrate seamlessly into our society, enrich our community and diversity, and foster mutual respect and unity. We anticipate this initiative will enhance demographic diversity and drive cultural and economic growth. Not bad. Oh, hell! The kingdom greenlights the foundation of Port Grazon, Romus Toras Hospital, with cutting-edge medicinal amenities and dedicated research zones. This institution vows to provide unparalleled healthcare to residents. Furthermore, it stands to serve as a pivotal medical base for wounded military personnel, reinforcing the nation's defense capabilities. Yeah, I think I think going for the Taurus, this is pretty good. In homage. In homage to our ancestral heritage and to boost our tourism industry, the kingdom is launching excavation restoration project to resurrect the historical sites and tombs. I think this one maybe not. Even though it's good for tourism, they're gonna get the people angry, the locals angry. Okay, we we decree the founding of Romus Toras University, a new beacon of higher education and research. This institution will be dedicated to fostering academic excellence, innovative research, and the pursuit of knowledge across a wide spectrum of disciplines. The establishment of this will contribute to the defense industry research and production with its technical faculties. Furthermore, you'll be equipped to prepare future leaders and thinkers who can contribute significantly to the nation's progress and uphold the intellectual heritage of society. You know, with this, I think we'll go for the hospital first. I'm not saying that in like university is not important. In terms of things, this should be one level higher. But if I do this, I don't have any budget left. Okay, so that's something I'm scared. But I think we can go into debt a little bit if there is something in the future. So let's go with this. Yes. Okay. Let's go to Plavo. Read the report. Plavo Arc Sanctuary deemed safe for ceremony. Despite the recent structural damage to the Arc Sanctuary of Plavo, inspectors have verified that the traditional consecration of kings ceremony may safely be conducted there. However, an extensive restoration is recommended before this place of worship, and the final resting place of Ursus' disciple Caelus the Devout can be opened to the public. Festivities underway to the consecration of the king. Jubilant street festivals adorned with colorful banners and lively music engulf the city. Religious procession featuring revered artifacts, clergy weave through the enthusiastic crowds, heightening the anticipation of King Romus' impending consecration. Okay, we read. Consecration of the king. My motorcade traveled for over an hour before Arc Sanctuary of Plavo appeared on the horizon. Its golden dome radiated under the sunrise. It was a view that inspired awe in many Arisian, especially the most devout followers of Saint Ruhak. Titus, who was sitting next to the driver, turned back to me. We shall be arriving shortly, Your Majesty. Good, I've been looking forward for this for quite some time. I was here for the consecration of the king, the centuries-old ecclesiastical ceremony symbolizing a monarch's appointment as God's highest representative on earth, better known as the divine rights of kings. Unlike my coronation, this was a private event shrouded in secrecy. Only a select few, such as Grand Wiseman and religious counselor Saul Ignatius, were privy to what the ceremony entailed. Not even my father, despite my asking, would disclose what occurred. He'd simply say, what took place was between me and God. Given his ambivalence towards me, his reply should have come as no surprise. But aside from the pomp circumstances of the consecration of the king, this meeting was my chance to catch up with Rizia's current state of religious affairs. Before long, my car pulled in front of the towering colonnade situated on either side of the entrance. Security guards held back a crowd of onlookers gathered along either side of the stairway, leading up to the Arc Sanctuary, where the Grand Wiseman stood. Security guards held back a crowd of onlookers gathering along either side of the stairway, leading up to the Arc Sanctuary. Okay. Looking as stoic as ever. Look at the old Jesus cat. Hard to believe he's still breathing. Looking as stoic as ever. Indeed, he is a great man. I'm pleased to know that our opinions align. Okay. Titus quickly exited the vehicle and opened my side door. As I stepped out onto the pavement, I was immediately greeted by the roar of a crowd that had come to witness my arrival. While most shouted my praises, there was a small group of demonstrators protesting against the ceremony. One was waving a sign out that read, Golcondism is not blasphemy. These people look like they could give you trouble. Should I have them removed? Have them removed immediately? You really have to ask, get those traitors out of my sight. Oh, they have the right to protest, even if I disagree with their cause. I think we let them protest. Let them protest, Captain, seeing as how this issue holds importance to them. Yes, Your Majesty. He cast an intimidating glare at the protesters as we passed them. I turned back to the crowd. They were still applauding me. I turned back to the crowd. They were still applauding me. Conduct the applause. I encouraged them to cheer even louder by raising my hand in the air like the conductor of Rizian Royal Symphony. Eager to follow along, they got louder and the higher my hand raised, and it quieted when I brought it down low. I performed variation of this towards different section of the crowd, much to their amusement. A welcoming smile. I think this is because like we spent a bit when regarding like the festivities, right? Okay, but so we gain one authority from that. Okay, I think that's the effect from here or from that. Okay, a welcoming smile spread across the Grand Wiseman's face as he came down the stairs. Welcome, Your Majesty. We are greatly honored to have you here for this momentous occasion. I look forward to serving you just as I serve your father. I shall honor this day with dignity and respect with sacred traditions of. I could think of better ways to spend my day, but when my duty calls, one must oblige. I think either one or two is okay. Let me just say, it is I who is honored to be here. You're too kind. I shall do my best to provide you with both personal and state guidance on religion. Thank you, Grand Wiseman. I aspire to fulfill God's will here on earth, just as you have done. I'm privileged to have your guidance. And I'm privileged to receive your guidance. I'm merely a humble servant, Your Grace. I do as God commands. After today, it shall be you who speaks for the divine. The 6 stars of Ruhek still shine upon our nation. Come, let us step inside. We have much to discuss. We began heading towards the entrance, however. I didn't get very far before my attention was drawn to a commotion from behind. As I turned to look, a throng of people surged against my security guards. Amidst the commotion, the one managed to slip and grasp and dash towards me with frightening speed. Standing round. I didn't want to be seen as a coward, so I stood my ground as the man approached. Titus, without missing a beat, caught the man by the arm and threw him to the ground. Other guards approached as Titus held him down. The surprised visitor was shouting something, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. We'll take it from here, Your Majesty. Well done, Captain. Take him away. What, did you expect me to handle it myself? Oh, now you have to take it from here? You should have never brought... I think that... Well done, Captain. Take him away. He did save our life. Maybe. With pleasure. With a nod from Captain Gordian, 2 of his guardsmen lifted the man to his feet and escorted him away. Sal and I continued towards the Arc Sanctuary entrance. I humbly apologize for the interruption, Your Majesty. Can't say I cared for that little stunt, but I do wonder what the man wanted. What was the man who I think he... Was that the man who I think he was? I see to it that the protester is locked away for quite some time. Quite the daredevil, that man. I'm inclined to know his motivation. I think we should say that. Quite the daredevil, that man. I'm inclined to know his motivation. He was a Durian Golcondis. I say his motivation was clear. I didn't know Durian's fundamentalism had gone this out of control. This one is not saying like, to to deride, you know, other religion. It's just saying that, oh, the tension is this bad, kind of thing. I'm not surprised that this action, when you deprive a man of religious freedom, this is the consequence. What would a dirty and Congress be doing here? I think to respect Sal, we shouldn't say number 2. Although this is what I feel. So I should say number 1. Alas, our Dirtian brothers have strayed far from God's path. He paused with his hand on the door. There was a time when Golcondas prayed here in such small numbers that their presence was tolerated. But the more Dirtians came to Rizia, the more they overwhelmed the sacred sanctuaries of Plavo, Benevian, and Yalis with their blasphemous version of worship. Like, this one, reminds me of, like, you know, the 3 Abrahamic religion, right? The Jewish, the Christians, and the Muslims. Like, the first is the Jewish, and then like Christian, and then the Muslim. But like, each of them think that their version of it is right. So even though their roots are from the same teachings, but due to some minor differences, so much animosity has been brewed between them. What's so blasphemous about Golcondism? The Golcondas have a martial culture, Your Majesty. They seek purification through violence. Oh, he made a face. Among other perversions. What perversions? Come, it is time you saw what they did to this building. I accompanied Sal into the Ark Sanctuary. Titus and one of his men stood guard at the entrance. Our footsteps echoed through the massive empty chamber as we made our way to the main aisle that separated the hall into 2. I was surrounded by the ornate wall murals of religious scene depictions, leaving no surface bare. Nearby statues seemed to watch me as I passed. One could get lost in a place like this. I have, more than once. It's only fitting that such a monument be built atop of the final resting place of Rizia's most revered disciple. Hailus the Devout, single-handedly credited for the spreading of teaching of Saint Ruhek throughout our part of the world. He got all of this just for teaching? My own fight. Ooh, this one we should not say number 1. I'm not here for history lesson. Actually, we're here for that. As a great admirer of this, I always inspire to lead a life of devotion and virtue, much like his own. Yeah, I think this is the best. It warms my heart to hear it. We stopped when we reached the chancel where the altar stood. Sal gestured over our heads onto the second floor gallery overlooking the hall. Part of it had collapsed, and the rest had been roped off. It looks like you've seen better days. I think you should say that it's a shame what happened to such a magnificent building. I couldn't agree more. A large number of Golcondas came here on one of their holy pilgrimages several years ago. An argument with the local Ruhis worshippers led to an altercation. Those beasts, praise the Lord it won't happen again. Are you sure these are the locals didn't start it? The inhabitants of Cardis, Monteclar aren't exactly conflict averse. That's the only reason for our blasphemy law? And why has it not been fixed since then? I think here I do want to say this, but let's just be neutral and like, why hasn't it been fixed? We will get to that, Your Majesty. Sal began to pace around the altar. Rizia's religious climate is at a crossroad, Your Majesty. From providing for the impoverished to expanding educational opportunities, our faith-based institutions are a central part of our everyday life, the fabric that binds our society together. All under the umbrella of our state religion, Ruhism. Should religion really be playing such a large... I do feel that. You could have me fooled. I look around and I see heretic and blasphemers everywhere. You're forgetting religion's most important role of all. that of pacifying the populace. Maybe number three. I think like number three is the least. Number three is like the least. It's like the most like. One is that we're denouncing religion. Two, we're denouncing too much of the other religion. Three, it struck a balance between one and two. It is true that sharing a single belief system fosters unity among our people, but sadly that unity has begun to splinter in recent years. Apart from the Golcondists, we have seen a rising Desternist minority to the growing numbers of migrants from Wackland and Rumburg. Desternity was the other main branch of Nurvis religion, observed in most countries to our north. Lena had been a follower but converted to Ruhism on joining the Rizian royal family. Lena's the wife that passed away. But then we should not antagonize the Rumburg royal though. A sacrifice, but one she had made in order to be with me. I would never counsel this country to turn away people in need, Your Majesty. But I do worry that our Ruhi's values are in danger of becoming diluted. Give me a moment. I need to rest my mouth. A lot of reading. Like grabbing a bite or two in between, like rest my mouth a little bit. I'm also thinking like, we will stream for like 2 to 3 hours every single time. And it says that you need like 10 hours or so to complete the main story for Kingdom of Rizia. So there's a lot to go through. Okay, the Destinies are particularly concerning as they place exclusive reliance on the scripture of Saint Das, disregarding centuries of progress since the Ascension Day. Like, about Golcondists is another thing, but Desternity, okay, is kind of like scary because they are from Ramberg, right? Okay, and Ramberg is basically the superpower, one of the superpower in the Suzerain Universe. So if we be too hostile toward the Dusterness, we're probably gonna be like having to deal with the Romberg later on. Well, we have to deal with them, but we should not be outwardly hostile. Golcondes pose a particularly large threat, using Ruhism as a cover for blasphemy. As long as you're a Grand Wise One, I'm sure those values will be preserved. I think number 3 is the best. That's very kind of you, Your Majesty. There's one decision that must be made right away regarding Rizia's religious plurality. He stopped pacing and looked at me. I recently received an urgent request from the Archpriest of Celebes. That city's Destinian sanctuary has long been insufficient to serve worshippers' needs, and he requests that new one be constructed. I'm not opposed, but isn't that the purview of the province of Brennas? Can't they worship the same sanctuaries as Ruhists? Yeah, the problem is like there's gonna be like clashes. We should give the Destinies their sanctuary, as every inhabitant of Rizia should have dedicated space for religious practice. We can't just roll out the welcoming mat to Destinies without considering where it might lead. I think we should stress on number 3. At the very least, this will help alleviate some tension between Destinies and Ruhists. I would also advise you to stop construction of new Destinies house of worship, as long as it does not take resources away from the restoration of this Ark Sanctuary. He pointed once more to the balcony. I petitioned your father to allocate some funds in return to return Plavo to its former grandeur. However, he was too preoccupied with other matters to sign the order. More proof that church and state should be separate entities. Maybe he didn't think that Plavo was worth saving. I can't believe I'm only finding out about this now. I'm surprised you hadn't. We lack the means to finance both your suggested project, therefore we must prioritize. If we restore Plavo, we will be even more pressured to let Golconda's worshipper in. I can think of better reasons, but we lack the means to finance both of the suggested project, therefore we must prioritize. Then of course Plavo should take. I think I should go with the Dusternis though. Sal closed his eyes, tilted his head up, and awaited my response. No, I don't believe it's in the Crown's interest to fund either project. Yeah, this is what I was saying earlier. I'm sorry, as much as I'd like to help, the Treasury currently lacks additional funds. That's unfortunate to hear, but perfectly understandable. I hope that when the funds come in, you'll earmark a portion of it to future religious projects. Which brings me to the main reason to our visitation, the consecration of the ceremony of kings. The consecration of kings ceremony. Sal spread his arms wide open. With great honor, I shall lead you as you step across the threshold and unite the divine. If you follow me, we can begin. He mentioned toward a stone archway leading out of the chamber. I followed the Grand Wiseman down a long corridor. We eventually reached an imposing iron door. Behind it was a descending spiral staircase illuminated by torches mounted on the walls. How medieval. What's going on down there? I'm going to catch a plague, I know it. What's down there? Come and see for yourself. This way, Your Majesty. I continued after him as we went down the stairs, which seems to go on forever. Before long, we reached the bottom. I was greeted by a wall of human bones that were carefully stacked from top to bottom. In an adjacent room, there were several tombs, each adorned with intricate decorations. Welcome to the catacombs. I had no idea this was down here. Most don't. As for the tombs tenant, they are mostly wealthy noblemen and their families alongside other well-to-do individuals throughout the centuries. Fascinating, I'd love to hear more about them. We shouldn't delay the ceremony much longer. But very well, who would you like to know about? First tomb. That would be the tomb of the Talarius Azaro. Not only was he the Earl Havas, he was the most revered general during the War of Rizian Succession. Even though House Azaro ultimately lost the war, the general never lost a single battle. After the war, he established Camp Domus, Rizia's largest military base to this day. He may be revered by some, I never cared much for him. Even though he fought against House Toras, I still hold him with the highest respect. Second tomb. This would be Aurelia Ixaro. If you remember your history, he was the famed industrialist of the 19th century whose revolutionary mining equipment led to the second Rizian gold rush. He single-handedly brought comprehensible wealth to this kingdom overnight, granting us enduring power and influence. While he isn't of royal lineage, his legacy earned him a place amongst them. Decorated in gold, I would have considered it the most splendid of all if it's not for the hole in the lid, through which I could catch a glimpse of skeleton remains within. Here lies Bredis Azaro, the first Duke of Montclar. All members of the royal house Azaro are descended from him. The damage to his tomb was another casualty of Golconda's pilgrims when a piece of the above ceiling came crashing down. Ready to move on. Very well. This way, Your Majesty. As we made our way down the tunnel, the scene began to close in around us. The feeling of claustrophobia began to sink in. Just when it seemed like the tunnel would never end, we emerged into a vast cavern, also illuminated by torchlight. Several witnesses, lesser in rank than Sal, were waiting for us. At the heart of the room stood a circle of 6 columns, each bearing a single star delicately carved upon them. They were arranged around a marble sarcophagus. I think... Is that who I think it is? Indeed, Your Majesty. This is the tomb of Kalis the Devout. Oh, rare of those who have set foot here. Count yourself among the blessed few. So remember, this is like the more or less either considered as a prophet or the saint. Kalis the Devout effigy became more apparent as I approached. Thou placed his torch into a nearby scope, Hans as one of the other wise men carrying a stable tray approached us. On it was a gold chalice, a clay jug filled with oil, a sponge, and what appeared to be a bottle of wine. Let us begin. Please remove your clothes and stand on the royal seal. I'm ready. Following the Grand Wiseman's instruction, I joined him in reciting verses from the sacred scripture. He slowly fed the words to me, and I repeated them back. When the garments were completely removed, Star proceeded to anoint me, dipping a sponge into a fragrant oil and gently applying it all over my body. After my flesh was fully coated, he set aside jug and sponge, reaching the chalice and a bottle of wine. He then poured the wine into the chalice until it reached the brim. It is well known that this is the final resting place of Kalis the Devout. But what most know is that this is where he performed his first miracle. Miracle? Did I hear you correctly? Yes, the miracle of foresight. For upon filling his stomach with the sacred wine, the very wine before you now, he was given the ability to prophesy the future. Oh god, is this gonna be like the supernatural here? Because if it does, it is interesting. Oh boy, let's see. What can I expect to see? You will see nothing. Only the most pious and reverent man may drink from the sacred chalice. That will not be you, not today, and possibly not ever. You see, once this wine is consumed, Kalis the Devout's gift of foresight shall, for a time, be bestowed upon the person who ingests it. I spent the past 2 weeks cloistered here, fasting and praying, in order to transform myself into a vessel for the visions. He held up the chalice once more and drank until the wine was gone. Setting it back down the tray, he then stepped toward me and held out his hands. Take his hands. Listen closely to my words, for the gift of sight comes in flashes. He closed his eyes and began taking long, deep breaths. Close your eyes. We stood in silence what felt for an eternity. I wasn't sure what to expect. Give me a moment. My phone rang a little bit. Super annoying. I know I shouldn't press this button. Oh, never mind. We stood there in silence for what felt eternity. I wasn't sure what to expect. But then suddenly his body began to tremble and his hand took a firm grip in mine. I couldn't let go even if I wanted. I see a crown. It's ascending into the sky, rising high above the surrounding countryside. Whose crown? Please don't interrupt, Your Majesty. And on the crown is a fracture on the golden band. The higher it journeys upward, the larger the crack gets. Whether or not it can be mended is uncertain. What do you mean it's uncertain? The visions are possible outcomes of what could come to pass. They aren't set in stone. What else is that all? His grip tightened. I now see soldiers, many soldiers, war, death, so much death. Are they ours? One of the army, yes. Their uniforms carry the royal seal. A war with whom? A most vicious foe. More than that I cannot say. And the victor? Not tell. Yeah, we have to like go for military here a little bit. I continue to listen closely to his words. I now see two individuals. They are embraced in each other's arms, lovers. They are surrounded by people both for and against their union. Am I one of them? One of them is of your blood. Uh-oh. Union as in marriage or arrangement. Lovers go on. It is a forbidden love or forbidden love or one of this forbidden love or one of disapproval. Oh my god, it's Vinna. But please keep going. Before me now is a heart. It's being stabbed by a sword. A heart being stabbed by a sword? This time, oh, a metaphor for betrayal? Possibly. Now, I behold an endless sea of people stretching as far as the eye can see. They are marching towards the royal palace in joy or anger. I cannot say for sure. Above them are birds. Tens of thousands of them are so thick they blacken the sky. They are migrating from the distant lands and making their nest in ours. So we're being invaded. It's obvious that the birds represent Western desertness. Golconda is coming to our lands. He let us sob laugh. A lamb. Yes, charming little lamb. Once separated from its flock by a great wolf, it now reunites with them. Bringing the faithful back to the fold, perhaps? It clearly speaks of Zill's return. And on a nearby mountain overlooking the city sits a beast with 3 heads. Each head is fighting with the other. They must be brought under control, either through taming or severing one or more heads, or all 3 will surely die. The royal houses. Oh, stand Rizia lands under 3 different flags: Wackland, Grand Duchy of Palace, and our own. That could be the meaning. Is this gonna like change a lot? I do feel like this part. If it's a royal house, the first one I would cut off is like Saison. If Rizian, I think Wackland, because Wackland is like ruled by an authoritarian. Yeah, I have no problem with going against Wackland, but Wackland is, like I say, authoritarian, so they have quite a strong military presence. Yeah, I think I can go for number 2. It very well could. I felt Sal loosen his hold of me, letting go. I looked at him curiously until he finally spoke. The vision had stopped, thus concluding the ceremony. I think I understand. Good. It's now up to you to decipher their meaning. Let me rest a little bit. Too much reading. It kind of like, tires my mouth, which is not a surprise because I've been reading and talking. This is the thing with like streaming. With streaming, like text heavy games, the amount of text you have to read. I do wish that there's like a break in between. Like in Persona, in Persona, like you do have the battle part, and then you do have like the story part. Okay, and of course, story part is like, of course, it's voice, and but there's also things for you to read. Like there's a bit of a, like a balance of resting, you know. And I think like one of the most biggest problem for me to like go through Suzerain, like this text-based heavy game, like the pacing of it. Okay, let's go. That's the gift and the curse that comes with the divine right of kings. After a long moment, during which he seemed to still be recovering, he spoke again. I wonder if like King Valero, you know, Rames's father, saw this, and that's what made him like, you know, like gave up zeal to save us. Surely you now feel it, Your Majesty, the will of the divine coursing through your veins. It is your responsibility to carry out what he has ordained, and it is mine to aid you in your holy duty. It's a heavy burden. I'm I'm instrument of nobody. Uh, Wait, let me drink something. I pray that he and you will guide me to what is best for our country. Mm. I think here it's like it's a heavy burden. Like even though 3 sounds more grateful, but here I think he wants to know that whether we can stand up to the, you know, to the responsibility. Oh, Halaita. In I nodded in agreement at the ancient Ruhi's term. It was short for the Hansi Halaita Veretan. If it is said, so it is. So it will be. One of the Grand Wiseman priests handed him a wooden case. In honor of this momentous day, I would like to bestow upon you one of our most sacred relics of our faith. He opened the case and revealed an intricately decorated scepter. Saint Dust's scepter. According to legend, Master Artisan Dorian Exteberia had a vivid dream in which Saint Dust appeared, urging him to create a scepter to encapsulate the pillars of Nuriti. Driven by this divine vision, Dorian meticulously designed and forged the scepter, believing it to be his sacred duty to honor the saint's legacy. And now, I give it to you, Scepter. I am deeply humble and profoundly grateful for this extraordinary honor. Receiving such a deeply humble and profoundly grateful. I put on my clothes and made my way through the catacombs until I reached the surface. The events of today forever burn in my memory. As part of me questioned whether or not what I experienced was real. If it was, did I accept the responsibility that came with my consecration? Did I really speak for the divine? Before long, I was back on the road again, back to reality. Eh, like I say, I do not want to have an argument, like a misunderstanding with Palace, okay? But I have no problem with Wackland. The arc century of Plavo faded from view, what my and my mind began to settle. I thought more about the vision and what they meant. If they were real, what my next steps should be. Oh my god, that's a lot of decrees, man. Inherit, enact, inheritance tax. Ooh. Base income tax. Ooh, this is gonna make people hate. Removal of income tax. No, no, no. let's see what we can. Welfare privatization. Nope. Dang, we don't have money. Let me see. Welfare privatization. The kingdom transitioned a minority of the welfare, health, and education services to the private sector. This pivotal move seeks to harness private sector's efficiency, thereby promising enhanced service quality, and tailored solutions for Rizia's denizens. While many in the business community anticipate opportunity for growth, certain societal factions, especially the average citizen and the Rizian People's might might harbor concerns of the negative implication of such privatization. I think like a little bit of privatization is okay though. Oh, I so want to like privatize a little bit. Like I say, it's not saying that I'm fully for like it's not saying that I'm fully for like socialism and everything. But I do think that like we do need a little bit of privatization, okay? I think privatization is the best. Yeah, I think privatization is the best. It does give us a little bit of extra budget. Yo. Man, there's a lot that we can do. Tree energy to budget. Build Celebus Consumer Industrial Park. The Kingdom initiated the establishment of Celebus Consumer Industrial Park in Brennus, designed to bolster Rizia's consumer goods sector, particularly in electronics and household appliances. This strategic development, calling for a significant resource investment, promises an industrial production and living standards upon completion. This industrial park will be advancing economic growth and innovation. Oh, this one is definitely that we need to go for. Oh boy, we need that. Iza Heavy Industrial Park. In a decisive move to fortify industrial powers, the government sanctioned the development of Iza Heavy Industrial Park in the city state of Iza. Envisioned as a state-of-the-art hub for diverse industrial activities and crucible of innovation, the facility is primed to catalyze the economic growth. Ooh! The park is anticipated to not only generate numerous job opportunities but also foster technological advancement, solidifying its key role as key economic driver. Additionally, this development is set to benefit the Grand Duke of Iza, reinforcing the strategic alliance with its pivotal state. Ooh, dang. You know what? I think we need to build this one first, okay? But then we're kind of like very dangerous with our we're gonna be very dangerous with our energy, okay? So this one is like to give us a bit of a boost later on. The faster we get, the better. Okay. And here what I'm gonna do is that the next turn we definitely have to make the Pana hydroelectric dam, okay? Okay. We have to make the hydroelectric dam. It's gonna be a lot, but it gives us a lot of energy in return. And of course it takes 4 turns. So the faster we get, the better. Okay? We get that. And then we can also like make the heavy industrial park. So with these two, with those 3, I think we're gonna be set for our like economically. I think like budget economy is very important. Okay. Okay. Royal decree. I think we're done the royal decree. Briefing on the current security situation. On the way back from Plavo Accentry, I met my consul in the city-state of False Dator for a briefing on security and military situation. The so-called Forge of Rizia was famous for its numerous foundries and factories, in which iron from the nearby hills was transformed into rifles and handguns. Largest among them all was the Royal Falls Foundry, responsible for supplying Rizian police and military. The red brick complex towered at the end of King's Avenue, False Dator's main road. My consul and I were given a tour of the facility before settling around the table of the foundry's great hall. Murals of the walls around us depicted the city's history as an industrial center. As Duchess of the province and my war security counselor, Lucida sat at the head of the table. She nodded at the rest of us. Your Majesty, Your Highness, my esteemed fellow counselor, I planned this meeting here so that the king would have a shorter journey after his consecration ceremony. I'm sure proceedings were very taxing, Your Majesty, whatever they were. Whatever happened in Power? It was taxing for sure? You're wrong, Duchess Cesaro. I've never felt so invigorated. I'm glad to hear it. Religion has that effect on some people, I'm told. Even if you're not a believer, Miss Cesaro, I assure you the 6 stars of Saint Ruhex shine upon your house and our troops. Not really though. I know better than to pry into the content of the ceremony, Your Majesty, but I will say I hope it was an enlightening experience. It does. You may proceed with your briefing, Duchess Cesaro. With great pleasure, Your Grace. She gestured at one of the murals on the wall, depicted a beautiful but severe-looking woman riding a horse down the King's Avenue, a rifle at the ready. My ancestress, Anna Zero, ordered the construction of this foundry in 1812, immediately after the end of the War of Rizzian Succession. Is it the 3 houses? Yeah, I think it is. Maybe. House Cesaro knows that peacetime is not a period of rest. It is a time to gather our strength and hone our weapons when they are next needed. Because they most certainly will be needed. That's a rather pessimistic view, Duchess, isn't it? We can also use the peacetime to form a new alliance and improve international relationship. Frank, is more than just about weaponry. Well said, Your Majesty. Alliances can shift, treaties can be broken. We should not be so naive to assume every nation will respect diplomatic boundaries. Yeah, Wackland is like, I remember from Suzerain, the main story, like, Wackland gonna like be such a pain in the ass, so we have to deal with them. I'm not gonna like have an alliance with them. Our failure to win the Reclamation War and Rebellion of 1926 served as a double blow to the Rizian armed forces. Even after my father purged the troops and general staff of all suspected traitors to the throne, His Majesty King Valero was reluctant to restore our military to its former strength. As a result, Your Majesty, we are ludicrously underprepared for a country of our size. I don't like you complaining about the King Valero. This is alarming. We need immediate measures. While this is a significant challenge, we can't simply throw money at it. We need to be efficient. Efficiency is key. We must strategically allocate resources, perhaps starting with the most outdated sectors and gradually expanding our forces as funds allow. Now, a word about our military priorities. Focusing on the Air Force offers us a chance to establish area superiority, but it requires precise investment in procurements and fleet expansion. We will also be training a paratrooper division under this initiative. We already have that. The strength of our Rizian armed forces lies in the diversity of our resources and units. Since we already spend it, we should really focus on it. We have manpower ready for duty, as long as they are equipped with the necessary gear. Training these units, however, isn't an instantaneous process. Each unit, from infantry to naval, requires preparation. Ultimately, the readiness of our forces that will determine how well we can uphold our sovereignty and carry out military strategies. How do the costs and training compare? How do we plan to adapt our military training to ensure the armed combat? How long does it take? Movement number 5. How will training program ensure that Rizia military is strong? How long does it take to prepare a unit? The majority of units will reach full readiness within a year. A specialized units requiring additional time for their rigorous preparation. In any case, as the commander of our armed forces, the final decision is rests with you. The diligence is appreciated, Duchess. Begin the preparation. I will deliver my instructions shortly after the meeting. I must confess something. Even after your extremely informative introduction, I don't know a thing. Okay, I think we should say number 2. Our kingdom has many needs. The military is but one of them. If our kingdom took anything away from Palace and the rebellion, it's that we learned the deadly cost of unpreparedness. Our troops must reflect Rizia's resilience, ensuring such blows will never weaken us again. We can achieve this thanks to my house. Camp Domus still runs rigorous high-quality training on the continent, right, Captain Gordian? With lightning speed, she reached under the table, pulled out a knife and hurled it at the direction of the doorway. Titus languidly snatches it out of the air. Very good. Your house should be commended for its deep devotion to protecting this country. You're pleased to serve. She grinned briefly before regaining her poise. Of course, national security doesn't begin and end with the Rizian military. We also have our police and intelligence divisions to think about. I have a few more questions regarding the military. Start. What's the state of our military production industry? Lucida sigh. Despite our very grand surrounding, we have long neglected the potential of False the Tor. Rumberg currently supplies us with the bulk of our weaponry, including KA-74. But if we invested more into research, development, and production in the city, our small arms industry could become a real force to be reckoned with. Do we have the capability to build larger weapons too? We've got to take our diplomatic stance into account. Wouldn't a sudden increase in arms presence be seen as provocation by our neighbors? On the contrary, Your Majesty, it might serve as a deterrent. A nation that invests producing high-quality weaponry is not one that you want to provoke. Actually, were our foundries in Falls of the Tor to become productive enough, we could use rifle as yet another trade resource. Ooh, that's... I suggest we think of procuring larger weapons as well. Dirdian missiles, for example. A weapons deal with Dirdia could help improve relationship between our countries. We shouldn't bother with Dirdia. I'm counting on a stable relationship with Romberg. I doubt Dirdia will sell us up considering our religious difference. Norris Republic of Dirdia, commonly referred to as Dirdia. What religion are they under? Golkondism! Oh, dang! They're the Golkondis. I doubt Dirdia will sell us weapons considering our religious differences. Everyone has a price, Your Majesty. It would depend on what Rizia is willing to pay. Not much. but I set aside time to discuss Lyria during our upcoming foreign policy meeting. I look forward to that conversation, Mr. Escobar. Where were we, Your Majesty? Naval and air capabilities. Our navy has made significant strides in the past 30 years. We are a coastal nation after all, and our fleet is both well trained and up to date. Our submarines could use improvement though. Compared to those currently coming out of Rumberg and Valkland, they're practically ancient. Our air force, meanwhile, is still suffering from the consequences of Palace campaign. It's funny though, like I spent more on the air. Like we have a choice when we start. Lorenzo Green nodded grimly. We did not foresee that Lesbia would become so heavily involved, nor that they would provide Grand Duchy with cutting-edge aircraft. Lesbia wouldn't even have those planes if it weren't for their ties with Acacia. But hypothetically speaking, if we try to reconquer Palace again, they'll rain death from above. We're better off strengthening our other divisions than trying to compete with the likes of Lesbia. Lesbia wouldn't even... I think number 3 is the best. We can't ignore the possibility of aerial combat. Many battles these days are decided above our heads. And then there's a question of... Let's talk about the army conscription. How do we bolster our ranks? Our ranks are looking healthy already, Your Majesty, but since you ask, as you know, our central royal army is fed both by general conscription and levies from the individual provinces. If you ask me, the provincial army should be pulling more weight, though I do understand that Brennas and Valenquist are not as well trained as Cardans and Monteclars. I would also suggest extending the length of our conscription period and lowering the conscription age from 24 back to 18. I can't send kids to war. 18-year-olds are hardly kids, Your Majesty. Then do you want to go? Do you want to go? How old are you, Vienna? How old is she? Then do you want to go? Indeed not, Your Highness, but young people, especially young men, tend to make irrational decisions around that age. No, I disagree there. Well, that's simply not true. I feel my mind was as sharp as I was a young man. Such as rebelling against their general. As I said, in the 1920s were extraordinary circumstances, there will be no second mutiny. I myself joined the military when I was in my teens, and I'm eternally thankful I did. Time to move on to other matters. I still gonna stick to the journey for, like, if possible, like, I do not want conscription, but I do want to like rather than have conscription, we should have like a special, like a, it's not saying volunteer army, it's like a profession, okay? Does our internal security needs improvement as well? Less so, Your Majesty. Our police forces have kept a firm handle on populace since the uprising. Civil disobedience in Monteclar, for example, is at a historic low thanks to my zero tolerance policy as such as Valanquist too is unlikely to pose a major difficulty as long as House Toras is on the throne. On the Central Police, headquartered in Rizia and Petty, have been keeping the capital secure. The members of House Caesar who rule Brennas have mostly fallen in line following the uprising. They are content to use the House delegates as a forum for their grievances. He took a deep breath. If there's a problem area, it's Isa. What is like Isa is like the industrial area that we want to build, right? Okay, because this one is right across Alice. What, is my cousin for failing his duty as a duke? I knew it. The city was a stronghold for anti-monarchists. Let me guess. Let me guess. The Wessex and Durdian newcomers have been causing problems? It's complicated, Your Majesty. Large numbers of migrants, particularly Wazacks, fleeing the civil war, settled in the cities in the 30s. As I mentioned in our earlier meeting, some turned to the black market to supplement their meager guest worker income, giving rise to organized crime. So this is what I was saying. We should like give them like rights, and then like we can snuff out the black market. What kind of black market activities? The drug trade mostly. There are cartels connected to the families in Wachland, who in turn answer to powerful distributors in Agard. I attempt to tackle this myself with a community policing program, but the networks were too strong to see the sniff. In my opinion, the growing influence of the nationalist group Suomina has only inflamed tensions in the area. Certain members of House Toras may disagree, of course. I completely agree. Provocation of people like my cousin will only stroke flames of violence. The good Rizians of Iza are doing their best with the resources they have been given, Duchess, my son included. The problem is, as I see, it lies with the lack of cooperation between the city police and those of the surrounding region. Yes, I received Duke Rico's complaint about Brennan's forces have not been providing him with as much aid as he wishes, as well as request that extra police from our central forces to be transferred to Iza and placed under his command. But I don't think that would solve anything. And why not, Duchess? I thought you were tough on crime yourself. It would be a dangerous present. We can't have the other provinces demanding the same. Why aren't the Brandis police cooperating? They are providing some assistance, but my instinct is that they, like most of House Saison, disagree with Duke Rico's policy and association with Suomina. Their political views should not matter. Their job is to protect and serve. I have the situation under control, Your Grace. You don't need to involve yourself in such a minor issue. Hugo opened his mouth to respond. Lucida pretended not to notice. Well, Your Majesty, shall we continue the briefing? What about intelligence capability? They are just as important as our military strength. I was getting to that, Your Majesty. The Rizia Intelligence Service has operated in Morella, Derdia, Central Westland, Espia, and Romberg. His Majesty Valero, however, insisted on withdrawing our presence from Zil and Palace. That's ridiculous. I think like Zil, it's a dumb. Palace maybe not. Why would... Oh god, that's ridiculous. We need to keep a close watch on Roto. Yes, my father told him the same thing. He was afraid of drawing the leader's suspicions. In my experience, we have much more to gain from straightforward diplomacy than from a cloak and dagger operation. Mr. Escabel, if you think Wackler and Palace are not spying on Rizia, you're fooling yourself. Agree. Loranto sniffed indignantly. What useful information were we receiving from either region before the operative withdrawal? We learned of the prior Duke Nolma's abdication before it was officially announced for one. Can the agents in those regions place back in position? If the agents are gone, they're gone. What about domestic intelligence? Domestically, our main intelligence focus has been preventing another uprising. To that end, our information gathering has been concentrated on Brennas, where the last anti-monarchist movement originated. Keep up the good work. I'll update you should major concern arise. Any other question, Your Majesty? You've given me a lot to think about. Let's call it a day for now. The heavy wooden door to the hall creaked open, and Aide rushed over to Loranto and whispered something in his ear. I see. I get to a telephone right away. He turned to the rest of us, his usual jocular expression overlaid with concern. I must excuse myself briefly, ladies and gentlemen. Please continue without me. What is it? I will explain once I have all the details. He gave a quick bow, then rushed out of the room. I wonder what that could be about. Anyway, if we leave soon, we can make it back to Port Drazon before it gets late. She signaled to Titus, who tossed her knife back at her. In one fluid motion, she hiked up her ground, caught the projectile, and stowed it in a leather holster strapped to her thigh. Ooh! Nice catch. It was nothing. In my fitter days, I could do it hands-free. Lucida adjusted her gown. An early return to the capital would be my preference as well. But where is Mr. Escabel? The door swung open again. Lorento came back into the hall. He wiped his brow with a silk pocket square. Well, Mr. Escabel, I hope you brought us good news. It's too early to tell if it's good or bad, but it's definitely impactful. We just received official confirmation that our neighbor has accepted into Occasion Treaty Organization. Lesbia? Precisely. Lesbia. Precisely. Prime Minister Alvarez will make the official announcement tomorrow. Didn't we all see this coming? It should hardly be a surprise. Indeed, this development has been on the horizon for some time, but our relationship with neighbors are sure to change because of it. Thanks for the updating, Mr. Escabel. I suggest we set a date for a meeting to discuss Lesbia, ATO's membership, as well as our general foreign policy strategy. Preferably as soon as possible. We must decide on our official stance. We are not expected to come out against or in favor of Lesbia's alignment, but we should get on the same page as a council. I'll inform our host that we'll be departing shortly. She pushed back her chair and briskly left the hall. The Occasion Treaty Organization? What would that mean for us? Nothing good for sure. I had barely even started my reign, and it already felt like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. What other challenges lay in store? Oh, it's still not the next turn yet. I think like this is it for today, okay? Like I do feel like, you know, it's a bit too much. Okay? Like 2 hours from now, like we just reached 2 hours, right? I think that's a good length. The thing, right, when you see me playing like Persona or like you know, Oceanomics, at least like there's a balance in the between, right? Here I've been talking non-stop, so it is a bit tiring. Okay, so 2 hours of fully reading, it does tax, like it is pretty taxing. Okay, but I think like this is where we end for today. Tomorrow's Tuesday. On Wednesday I'll pick it up. Okay, so yeah, that's all for now. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Tomorrow I could stream, but I do want to have a break. But then again, I did have a break yesterday, so well, if I do stream, I'll stream, but I got things to do. I do have like an exam on the 1st of December, and I haven't done much studying yet. Okay, so I want to catch up tomorrow. So with that said, that's all for today. See you next time. Bye bye.